Well, good evening, everyone. Can everyone hear? We switched mics around a little bit, so we're hoping this will work a little better tonight. It's sort of a experimental process every night that we're doing these. I'd like to welcome everyone here tonight. I'm Nancy Lockwood. I'm the Voter Service Chair for the League of Women Voters. The forums are co-sponsored also by the Albany County Public Library, and I especially want to thank Caitlin White, who is responsible for doing the setup for these, and she pulls in staff and some of the, I think, kids from the, I forgot, is it YAC? Yeah, YAC is their adolescent group that meets here at the library, so they help do all the setup. Before we get started with our questions for the candidates tonight, I'll go over some general information and the forum procedures. As a courtesy to everyone, please remember to turn your cell phones off or to silent mode. Also, any video recording is not allowed. We are doing videotaping of the forum, and that will be posted on the League's website in a few days. It usually takes a couple days for it to get uploaded. So if you want to refresh your memory of the events tonight, you can watch it, or if you know other people who weren't able to attend and are interested in the proceedings, encourage them to go on to the League's website, which is WyomingLWV.org, and there will be a link there for tonight's proceedings, as well as the other forums. At this year's general election, voters are also being asked to vote on 4 other issues in addition to the candidate races. You are asked to vote on retaining the 1% sales tax, or sometimes referred to as the 5th cent sales tax. We're also being asked to vote on retaining the 4% lodging tax. And there is a constitutional amendment to vote on regarding the residency of the UW Board of Trustees. And there are 4 judicial retentions to vote on. On the back table, there are brochures regarding the League, including membership brochures. So if you enjoy our forums here and are interested in current issues and civic responsibility, you might want to consider joining the League, and then you can join me up here. In addition, there are copies, I think still, of our Wyoming State League publication, A Look at Wyoming Government, and that provides general information about the structure of our government system here in the state of Wyoming. And there are handouts regarding pros and cons for the 5th cent sales tax as well. And I think it's free. The look is. Oh, so are the pro-con flyers. And I think the State League is working on a flyer about the constitutional amendment. We don't have that yet, though, right? Okay. Candidates may have also provided some information and literature, and that would be on the very back table against the wall there underneath the map that has the precincts. So if you are not sure where you're going to vote, you can take a look at that map, and then there's also sample ballots on the back table, so you can look and see for sure what issues or what candidates you're voting for based on where you're voting and where you live. The general election will be Tuesday, November 4, with polling places open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., or you may vote early by completing a ballot at the county clerk's office or by requesting an absentee ballot from the clerk's office. Election information can be obtained from the county clerk's website or from the Wyoming Secretary of State website. And if you're not registered to vote or need to change your voter information, you can do so at the clerk's office or at your polling place on election day. You will need a photo ID to do those things. The League of Women Voters and the Laramie Daily Boomerang will be publishing their annual voter guide, or biannual. It'll be published on October 26th. In the Boomerang is a pull-out section. The voter guide is also posted currently on the League's website, and there are some advanced copies, not the version that will go into the Boomerang, just the formatted questions and candidate responses. And those are available here at the Albany County Public Library, at the county clerk's office, and a few other places around town. At this time, I'd like to give an opportunity for any other candidates that are here tonight to stand up and briefly introduce themselves.
Introduce myself real quick. Hi, I'm CJ Young. I'm the Republican nominee for House District 45. And I'll look forward to being here in a couple of weeks in this same garden to take questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Donna Coffey, and I was here last week. I'm running for the school board.
I'm Jackie Gonzalez, seeking re-election for county clerk.
I'm Linda Simpson, and I'm seeking re-election for county treasurer.
Get everyone? Thank you. We will begin tonight's forum with questions for the candidates. Your questions are to be written down and submitted at any time. Please indicate at the top of your question to which race your question is directed. There are pencils and pads of paper in each row of seats. Raise your hand when you have a question, and a league member will collect the question from you and give it to our moderator. Questions should be directed towards all candidates in a particular race, not towards an individual candidate. Each candidate will be given 90 seconds to respond to each question. We do have a timekeeper up front who will signal you by holding up a sign when you're approaching your time limit and at the conclusion of your time limit. She doesn't have a hook.
Yes,
The moderator may edit questions for clarity and appropriateness and may ask further questions to help expand upon an issue. In addition, the moderator may also vary the allowed response time based on the complexity of the question and overall time constraints of the forum. The last 20 or 30 minutes of the forum will be given over for informal conversation with audience members. And now I will turn things over to our moderator tonight, who is Dr. Ann Alexander. Ann has a PhD in economics and is the Director of International Programs and Associate Dean of Outreach at the University of Wyoming. Her work at UW includes overseeing various scholarships, grants, and programs geared to provide opportunities for university students and faculty outside the borders of the United States. She also plays a key role in bringing international dignitaries to campus to help strengthen Wyoming's connection with the rest of the world. Her research and teaching focuses on international economics, health economics, energy economics, and political economy. She has served as a resource economist in the U.S. Department of State, Assistant Dean of the UW College of Business, and Director of Interdisciplinary Health Economics Policy Center at UW. She's an alumnus of the Leadership of Wyoming, class of 2013, and in her spare time, I don't know where she has that, but she enjoys hiking and camping, visiting historic sites, and driving Wyoming's scenic roads. She's also even reported as saying she likes our long, cold, snowy winters, which seem to be fast approaching. Welcome, Ann.
Oh, it seems to work very well tonight. Thank you very much for that lovely introduction, and thanks to all of the candidates for agreeing to participate in the League of Women Voters Forum this evening. First, I'd like to begin by having us start here on our right, your left, and have each of the candidates introduce themselves by name and party and the office they are seeking. No opening statements, please. Their written statements are at the back. So, would you mind beginning, Mr. Shoemaker?
There we go. Hello. Hi, my name is Grant Shoemaker. I am the current county assessor. I am a Democrat, and I am seeking re-election.
My name is Dana Brewer. I am a Republican nominee for the assessor's office this year.
I'm Jim Schermatzler. I'm the Republican candidate for county attorney.
My name is Peggy Trent, and I'm running as the Democratic candidate for Albany County Attorney.
I'm Tony Mendoza, and I'm the candidate from the Democratic Party for Clerk of District Court.
I'm Janice Sexton. I'm your current Clerk of District Court, and I'm seeking re-election on the Republican ticket.
Thank you all very much for that. Also, it helps me situate where everybody is since I can't see your name tags. So I'll begin with one of our general questions for all candidates. And let's start at the very end with Mrs. Sexton. I apologize. What have you done or what will you do to improve service to the public in your office? And that is directed to each one of you.
Okay, of course, I'd like to think that I have a perfect office right now, but there's always room for improvement. The biggest thing that my concern is now is we're now on the uniform case management system throughout the entire state. And I just need my staff to become more proficient, and they continually are coming with me with suggestions, and I've been on the design team now for 4 years of this case management system. So we just want to become better and better with our Y-user capabilities. And I also, something that's always been an issue with me, and hopefully maybe I can work with the new administration for the county attorney, is defendants that are victims that are having trouble collecting their restitution. You know, they've been ordered to pay, and then they just decide they're going to quit paying, and there's the victim out there, been victimized, and we've been told in the past, you know, file it civilly, and I don't think that's right. I would like to think there would be something I could do to help provide the county attorney with information as far as what's due and so forth. And also, we'd like to continue working with the Supreme Court in fine-tuning the jury selection system. They've made some huge changes that I think everybody would be really happy to hear about, but there are still other things that need to be done to benefit our citizens so they won't be traumatized by being called for jury selection.
Well, there are a couple of things that I think are very important. One of them is bringing the 23 counties in Laramie, in Albany, in Wyoming, under the same umbrella of reporting and record keeping. I understand that sometimes that's a rather daunting task depending on the technological capabilities of different counties, but I'm confident that that system will come together. Also, I think that in terms of the jury selection, there's a number of opportunities for us. The county clerk keeps records of people who are doing business in the county clerk's office, voter registration, that kind of thing. The assessor's office keeps a list of people who are paying taxes, and certainly the treasurer's office is keeping a list of people who are buying license plates. So I think that those are some excellent opportunities for the clerk of the district court to get some names gathered together for the jury system. And also reporting accurately and securely to the Supreme Court of Wyoming, making sure that that information is correct and current, so that when the legal community may use that information, that it's actually viable and it's good information.
With the county attorney's office, as some of you may be aware, there's two roles. The first role is representing the county commissioners as well as the county agencies, as well as prosecuting crimes in the various courts of circuit court, juvenile court, and within the district court. As such, to improve service to the public, it would be my intent to bring to the office a sense of communication and inviting the public to speak. Part of what I would like to see is what we call community prosecution. It's like community policing. We're out in the community, talking to the community, identifying issues, and I'm certain, and as I've gone through this journey as of today, I've heard from the public on various issues involving roads, private road issues involving the landfill for county residents, and on equally you hear about the issues involving juveniles as well as mental illness cases. So it's important that while we're out in the community listening to those items, that that's being brought back to the appropriate entity for action and for our office to provide that. So essentially, you will see with my administration inviting the public in to talk about issues. Thank you.
There are a number of things that I want to do to improve service from the county attorney's office. First of all, I want to implement some cross-training among our staff so that our attorneys are aware of the different areas of our work, can pinch hit for each other, if you will. I will also assign cases on an as-needed basis. One of the problems we have in our office is because we have such diverse work representing the county officials, doing criminal prosecution, juvenile prosecution, and the mental commitment cases, that workload doesn't always come in, as you might guess, even. And so one of the things I want to do is assign cases and review that on a weekly basis to pick up gaps so that the priorities on one week might be different on another because certain other cases come in, judges issue deadlines, and so forth. Overriding that, it's all a matter of improving communication not only in the office but with law enforcement, with county officials. I do have a history at the county attorney's office of representing county officials in civil work. I think you understand that, they understand that I do a good job in promptly getting back to them.
Some areas that I would like to try to improve on in the county assessor's office would be to work on public relations with the county residents. Also bring more transparency to the office, allowing residents to have a place to come in and visit, talk to the assessor, the staff, have questions answered, sit down and visit. Also improving working relations with other departments within the courthouse, also within the city. One of the areas that I think could use a lot of help that way. Keeping more accurate records, more up-to-date records is also something to always work on. There's always things that can be improved on in keeping the records, keeping them up to date. And also one of the most important things is keeping the staff in the office trained so that they are able to do their job to the best of their abilities. Thank you.
Your staff is probably the most important. Cross-training is something that we have worked on very strenuously. People at the front desk know about mapping. The mapping people know about veterans exemptions. And not just in our office. If people come into us and ask questions where they are or what it is, we know where to send them because nothing frustrates people more than sending them someplace that is not the place they need to go. So constant training and update and experienced people who know their jobs with the training. Another improvement that we've made is the website, both the web map and the assessor site. Everything at this particular point is now digital. It can be found online and downloaded. An example of maps. People used to have to come and get a copy of either a paper or one of those plastic maps. If any of you have ever been in there, you've seen those maps. Those are now all available online, along with extremely detailed information. So businesses like insurance companies can do their business without having to actually talk to somebody. Another one is the veterans exemption. The veterans exemption is something that they have to claim every year. Our office has taken responsibility for that claim, and we mail them a form every single year and make sure that they get the form because your World War II veterans, et cetera, they're forgetting or physically incapable. So what we do is we put that out there so that we can make sure, and we also call if we don't even hear from them at that point. And I'm getting a stop, so I got to stop.
Yes, you do. I've seen the hook. It's not pretty. We'll go with each one of the offices in turn, and I will mix around who gets to answer the question first. So let's start with the county assessor question. Mr. Shoaker, you'll go first. How would you be sure that county valuations are consistent within each area?
The consistency in the values in each area are checked by the sales. This is a sales state, or there are three methods by which we value, which is income, cost, and sales. Reviews will indicate if the properties are accurately being assessed as far as their values are concerned. The sales will tell us, are we consistent with the neighborhood, and making sure that the properties are what they're supposed to be. We make sure that the age of the buildings are what they're supposed to be, and with considerable styles, similar ages, similar groups. And we check every year through statistical analysis and field inspections of those sales to make sure that the information about the properties and the sales are accurate. So we go out and we physically inspect those properties, because there may be instances where we've got a property undervalued or overvalued. In a case of undervalue, maybe a basement has been finished that we don't know about it. Undervalued, maybe since the last time we were there, the deferred maintenance has brought some issues that would cause a house to sell for less than it would if it was maintained correctly. And by maintaining that level of inspections and the quality of the areas and the similarities in which we value those properties, that is the most important thing.
I agree very much with what Mr. Shoemaker was saying in looking at and valuing to make sure that all the properties are consistent and fair. The only other thing that I might add to this would be to develop more standard operating procedures within the office to make sure that everything is being done consistently time after time, so that things remain in a situation so that they don't have to consistently be looked upon. By doing or by having a standard operating procedure, it'll assure that everything is done the same way every time, instead of having possible inconsistencies cropping up.
Thank you, Mr. Brewer. This is for the county attorney candidates, and Mr. Schermetzler, I'll have you go first. What changes would you bring to the county attorney office, for example, in staff and procedures?
Well, I believe I, to some extent, answered that before. I would implement the cross-training. I do want to include the victim witness people, other law enforcement, much more into the process. I would have regular meetings with our staff to assess priorities, as I indicated before, and also to plan for cases, to prepare cases, and we would do that early on in the process, bringing law enforcement into the picture early, having an open door with law enforcement agencies. I do intend to have a regular, reinstate, if you will, a regular meeting with the chiefs and the sheriff. I do think that needs to be done on a regular basis to have a give and take there. I do think those meetings need to rotate so that we're not always coming to the county attorney's office, because it is a team approach and we need everyone to feel that they are equal, and I think by having it rotate to the various offices gives that feeling. The same would be true of other agencies with respect to like DFS and involving the schools and other agencies.
I have given quite a bit of thought as to the current operation and structure of the county attorney's office. And as I said at the outset of our discussion today, there's two roles, civil and criminal. And first I'd like to discuss, there are approximately 5 attorneys in the office, including the elected official, and 4 supporting staff members. Right now, the prosecution, from the criminal perspective, they're doing what we call a vertical method of prosecution. And what that entails is one prosecutor from beginning to end handles the case from the outset of when it's charged through circuit court through the district court. What I'm proposing is what we call horizontal method of prosecution. And what horizontal more promotes team approach to handling prosecution. What that involves is having the attorneys at various levels of that criminal prosecution that they specialize in. It forces attorneys to work a case together as they move the case through the system. My experience with meetings, and I've trained a lot of young attorneys in my time, they do not just sit in a meeting. I have my own caseload, and it's hard to mentor and to bring people forward. So it's imperative that we have that involvement that's built in our system to promote team of prosecution. Along with that, that would include a restructure to involve victim witness, actively involving with witnesses, as well as law enforcement to promote that team. On the civil side, we need to, right now we have one prosecutor handling all the civil agencies. I, as the county attorney, would handle the commissioners as well as, and I'm getting the stop. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is directed to the candidates for clerk of the district court. And Mr. Mendoza, I'll have you respond first. What specific concrete improvements will you make in the office, and which would be your first priority?
Well, I think one of the things that's really critically important is to making sure that the transparency is maintained, that there is accountability in the office, and relying on the staff. You know, the staff really is a critical component of any of these offices. The captain of the ship, frankly, is elected every 4 years. So you could possibly have a new chief in charge of what's going on there. So the staff is really critically important to the functioning of the office and maintaining those people who are in the trenches and working very hard for all of that. Cooperation with the legal community, I think, is very important. Also making sure that everything that is transpiring in the judicial system in Albany County is reported accurately and completely to the Wyoming Supreme Court. Because that information, when it's disseminated, must be absolutely accurate. Otherwise, it compromises every legal proceeding that comes out of any other function of the clerk's office. So I think it's critically important. And of course, bringing all of the counties together under one umbrella of reporting sometimes might seem like we're trying to herd cats, but at the same time, I think it's important that all of us are on the same page with technology, because it's going to serve the citizens of Albany County to the best extent that we can of the office, and to maintain that as scrupulously as you possibly can. I think that's my goal.
As I said a little earlier, I do have a few improvements I would like to make. My staff, I would leave it exactly as it is. I have a staff of 5, and 4 of them were deputies with me under Jerry Overman. And my experience, including my staff, I think I added it up, is 96 years. And I don't think there's ever been a question come into the Clerk of District Court's office that we couldn't answer. And much like was said before, if we don't know the answer, we will find it. I'm also very proud of the fact that I don't have an automatic phone answering system. You will never hear press 1 for English or whatever, or you might get a voicemail if they're busy. Rarely does our phone ring more than twice before it's answered. So as far as the staff is concerned, I'm just hoping that they won't leave me, because they're just about perfect as they are. But like I said before, we need to just continue to be more and more proficient with this Y-User case management program. I'm on the design team, and we have weekly meetings with the vendor as well as the other clerks that are on the team in the Supreme Court. And if we can think of some enhancements or something to make this case management system work better, my staff is certainly the ones that, like Tony said, are in the trenches, and they will know what needs to be done, and I could take it to the team.
Thank you very much. Ms. Sexton, I'm going to ask you to respond first again, but this is for all of you. I think this is a fabulous question. That's an editorial. But I've seen it many times in this pile of questions over here, so I'm going to use this one. What do we, as the citizens of Albany County, gain by having these 3 offices partisan and not nonpartisan, like the school board? And we'll just move down the road. Thank you.
Well, that is a good question, and I know the clerks of district court love being elected officials. I don't know if Republican-Democrat thing is, I don't know about that part of it, because all of what I do in my job is governed by state statutes. I can't make policy, I don't do such as that. But being elected is the most humbling thing, and I think you just find so much compassion in that office, and the work gets done better, more efficiently, you take pride in it, and it kind of flows down to your staff. So I think being elected is an excellent thing, but the partisan thing, being a Republican or a Democrat, I don't believe has a lot to do with the function that we perform.
Well, I entirely agree. I have no idea why this is a partisan position. I don't know what difference that makes. I think the credibility, the integrity, the commitment to community service is what the individual brings to the office, and I think that's what's more important. And what political stripe you are, I really don't see how that affects or influences anything. But it is what it is, and so we run with the system that we have.
Well, I'm going to give a little bit of a different answer. When you go in to hire an attorney, I don't think we ask, are you a Democrat or Republican? We look at whether you're qualified to handle your legal needs and to address it in a manner with open communication. I do believe this office does need to be partisan. I believe the reason being is because of the fact of openness. We see right now in this current administration an illustration of what happens if we were to have a nonpartisan and we have an attorney who is not open with the public. And although, you know, we look at the party affiliations, I have to admit it's my makeup. Who am I as a person? What is my ideology? That shouldn't factor in, like we've had a lot of issues in the news today and most recently, as to how I interpret the law, because I'm going to follow the law, but at times it's hard to separate who we are and what our beliefs are. So at this point, I feel that being partisan is inappropriate for this particular office as it comes to prosecution, how you handle cases, how you take a tough stance on certain crimes, whether you're going to do more rehabilitation, whether you're going to, which is diversion. So I believe as a community, it is important to know what political affiliation and what your leanings are from social issues.
One of the things that factored into my being a Republican and running for this office as a Republican is the idea of fiscal conservatism. And I am a frugal guy. I expect that I will run the office in that manner. And I do believe that Republicans have the history of being fiscally responsible and concerned about those types of issues. Beyond that, I think a lot of why this is a partisan race has to do with the parties needing a grassroots beginning. The county offices are where that begins, and so there is a political aspect to it. As far as the function of representing the client, in this case the elected officials, that is a matter of legal integrity. The matter of prosecution is a matter of following the law and doing what prosecutors are ethically bound to do, as to seek justice. Justice for everyone, victims, witnesses, defendants, and the public. That is our duty, and I think that transcends politics.
In the position of the county assessor's office, a lot of the things that go on within the assessor's office are governed by state statutes in one way or another, so there's always those types of things to look at. The other thing I would have to ask of anybody that wanted to run for the assessor's office or come into the assessor's office, are they a qualified person? Do they have an idea of what's going on and what it takes to succeed in that position? As a Republican candidate for the office, Wyoming has always been a Republican state, and it brings Wyoming into play as going back to being a grassroots type of state, solid in the fact that the people have a certain ethic about them, being born and raised in Wyoming, and those ethics, those work ethics are strong, and that's what it takes, I think, to be an elected official in any of the capacities within the state.
I do agree with the fact that experience is very necessary for this position. As far as the political area, due to the fact that this is truly an administrative position and so many of the rules and regulations and statutes guide the assessors on how they do their job, really the partisanism is a small, if non-existent, factor in this particular job. If this did go to an election such as a city council or school board, etc., I think it would work just as well, because then people would be running on their experience. They would look at the job, say what they're capable of doing, and let people know and let the people decide from that point. This is a small county. It is a county that doesn't have much money. And so being community oriented and dedicated to the position to make sure that the service to the public is as good as it can be with the limited assets that are available, to be able to give what the community needs. Thank you.
I'll pick on the assessor candidates again because they're closest to me. Mr. Brewer, I'll have you answer this first. You mentioned qualifications. What makes you, each of you, qualified to be assessor?
Well, to start off, qualification-wise, I am a Wyoming native. I was born and raised in Wyoming. I love the state. I want to stay in the state. It has a lot to offer, and now's the time I want to try to give something back to the county residents of Albany County. I have an applied science degree. I graduated from Laramie County Community College a number of years ago. My degree is in the mechanical trades background, and I've pursued a lot of different positions using that degree and been very successful. One of my last employments gave me the responsibility and a chance to administratively work with a lot of different people across the United States, along with supervising and managing department head, being a department head, working with budgets and financial restraints within those areas. I have worked in the assessor's office before. I've worked there for about 5.5 years as a field inspector. I went through 150 hours of training, of classes, and passed the exams that also associated with them, and we'll continue to work that route upon being elected into that position if necessary.
In our case, administratively, I have more than 30 years of administrative experience, ranging from small businesses to corporate business environment in a company that grossed more than $1.2 million in revenue, where costs were always very carefully watched and budgets were also planned. Long-term goals were looked at. Small businesses that I owned were in more local areas, and the creativeness and the personality of the person who is running that business will be the driving force. I have lived in Laramie for 24 years, and I started working at the assessor's office in 2000 as a field inspector. I moved to the commercial appraiser, to also the residential and commercial appraiser. I was promoted on merit to the deputy assessor, and then I was elected 2 terms ago. The experience that I do have in these fields is well-rounded in this particular place, and we are lucky to have the people that I have with me. Training is another thing that we work very hard on so that the people are experienced and know exactly what they're doing, and we have an extremely good training program, and not just for what they're doing, but in cross-training. Different people do know what other departments are doing, and I've got the stuff. So.
All right, this is for the county attorney candidates. Ms. Trent, I'll ask you to answer first. What 1 or 2 issues set you apart from your opponent? And I'd like to quote this question because I like the way it's worded. Please be concrete and specific. No repetition of what I can read in your campaign literature. I'm in the audience, I listen carefully, and I'm undecided.
Could you repeat, are you saying what sets me apart from Mr. Schmetzler?
Yes, what 1 or 2 issues set you apart from your opponent? Be concrete and specific.
When I started on my campaign and started moving forward, I looked at what the issues are, what is happening in that particular office, and why I wanted to run for Albany County Attorney. And although my opponent has mirrored my positions and issues that I have defined throughout this entire campaign, the one item that distinguishes me is I am about team approach. I have not heard once during this campaign of my opponent saying that he would bring a team approach and how he would address juveniles. For instance, at the beginning, when a case comes through, whether it be child protection or in criminal juvenile, I believe that we need to have evidence-based assessment. We need to be looking at the children and their specific cases and how we're going to handle the case. Currently, Mr. Schmetzler in the current administration, he makes all the decisions. And in our small community, that is deadly. Because if you have any fear of retribution, it's not appropriate. So that's one issue that distinguishes us from each other. Also on the team approach, quite frankly, cross-training, that's great with support staff, but cross-training isn't going to get me to successful outcomes in prosecution. You need dual trial assignments on violent cases so that you are both approaching the case and using victim witness actively in a case and not just sending out restitution notices. That is not what prosecution is about.
With respect to the issue of how to handle juveniles, I do need to address that. Under our statutes, the county attorney's office is the single point of entry, meaning anytime a citation is issued to a juvenile, it comes to the county attorney's office for a determination as to what is the best way to handle that case. In our county, while I was here, we started a juvenile diversion program. That's a program for first offenders who are juveniles. And that program has been very successful. There's about a 98% success rate as to those people who go into that program, and there's an 85% success rate judging for no re-offending after the next 85% for the next year. That is very important. So I use that program. The issue regarding traffic offenders being appropriately served in circuit or municipal court is truly appropriate. If you or I get a traffic ticket, the biggest issue is traffic safety. That's the same whether you're 16 or 60. Those people need to be treated in that same manner.
Thank you. This next question is for Clerk of the District Court candidates, and Ms. Sexton, I'll pick on you again as the first answerer. Can you please address how the new statewide case management system will benefit specifically the court, attorneys, and the public? What are its benefits?
Okay, first I'll let you know what it means. It's called Y-User, and it's Wyoming Unified System of Electronic Records. And the benefit for the judges are going to be statewide access. So if they're assigned a case in Carbon County, Judge Donnell can sit on the bench, and if they are, he can pull it up. They're scanning their documents, and he doesn't need to have the push. Oh, it's not on. That would be okay. Okay, that'll make a difference. Where in the past we were shipping files back and forth, or his law clerks are traveling back and forth, this way he'll be able to sit on the bench or at his desk and be able to access everything in that case. As far as the attorneys, and they're going to love it, they're going to be e-filing. 24/7, they'll be able to file their documents. They'll be able to sit across the street or across the state and get their documents filed electronically. And for the public, one of the girls on our design team, the way she likes to say it, you'll be able to sit at home in your jammies. And from any place that you're going to have internet connection, provided it's not a confidential, and this is just a real scary thing for me in getting this whole thing up and going, you'll be able to, look up who your daughter's going to be dating and see if he's been divorced before, or, see if he's got a criminal record. So you literally will be able to do that from home. You can do that from the courthouse now. We have a public access terminal now. But eventually, when it goes out on the web, it's just going to be accessible to everybody, not the confidential stuff. We're going to guard that with our lives.
Mr. Mendoza?
Well, let me just say, short and sweet, that I agree with everything that Mrs. Sexton has said. I think it's critically important. I think it's really going to be beneficial for record keeping and for law enforcement and for just the flow of information. We're in an information age. Social media is huge. All of those kinds of things are impacting our lives on a daily basis, and so we're all very much aware of that. So having this technology and having it come to fruition now in the state of Wyoming, it's really an amazing accomplishment. Sometimes, we have the reputation in Wyoming of being one of the last ones to get on board with a particular movement. We're waiting for California or New York to set the tone for the country, and then we kind of join them, as it becomes unavoidable for us, or perhaps a little more expedient. But I'm really thrilled that this process is in place and that it's moving forward. And let me just say one more thing about what Mr. Schumacher said before. I don't want to give the impression that Democrats are tight-fisted with money. I think that my impression and my whole focus of life has been towards social justice and meeting social needs. 24% of the residents in Albany County are below the poverty level. We have a responsibility to address that issue in the state of Wyoming. And I think that Democrats probably do that a little more compassionately than our Republican friends. And I'm sorry to say that, but I think if you look at history, you look at the politics in Washington, D.C., you'll see that the party is a party of no.
That's an interesting segue to the next question for the county assessors.
I don't know if I can beat that.
I'm writing an additional part to it because it wasn't really inspired by that, but it's kind of funny juxtaposition. Mr. Schowaker, I'll have you answer this first. What does collaboration and cooperation mean to you, and who do you see as the key collaborators in your office as county assessor?
We are all collaborators. We all work with all the departments. I mean, ultimately, it is me and the communication between the departments. because every department, what they do is interactive with other departments. What I do with my assessments and the information that I have is given to the treasurer. The clerk's office uses our information for election purposes. And to make sure that all the departments get what they need at a timely manner so that they can do their jobs efficiently is what's very important. But we do have different people who work together. Some of the treasurer's staff works with my staff directly. And so it means to get the job done, to serve the community as best as we possibly can with the best information we can get to them as quickly as we can. If we don't have the information, we get it to the people, and or we transfer them to the correct person, and we do it the first time. I know that one thing that would frustrate me greatly would be the amount of transfers that I would get before I finally got the right person. And I do sit down with other departments and talk with them and talk about their needs and ask them what it is we can do so that we can better serve this community. Because our ultimate goal is to serve the community and let people know what it is that we can get for them as they need it.
Again, I agree very much with what Mr. Shoemaker's talking about with collaboration and cooperation. The assessor's office is not the single most important county office in Albany County. All of the county offices have an equally important job in what they do and how they function, and it's very important in the interminglings with all the different offices to work together and try to provide as much input and help the community along as much as possible with what they need to do. I'm also of the mind where, as being, if I'm elected the assessor, that I'm not the only person up there in the office. If anybody has an idea that might help improve something, I would love to hear it, sit down and talk to you about it, or talk to the people about it, and see if it might be something that we could implement to make services for the county residents that much better. And there's always that need is to make things better for the county residents.
Okay, thank you. This question is for the candidates for county attorney. And Mr. Schermetzler, I'll have you answer first. How would you decide which cases would be taken to trial versus those which focus on plea bargaining?
Plea bargaining is a very important part of what we do, and it starts with the charging decision. If we took every case to trial, we wouldn't have enough attorneys, the county wouldn't have enough money, we wouldn't have enough judges, and the system would come to a grinding halt. The cases that need to go to trial are going to be cases that are probably tough cases, cases that have no room for bargains. Sometimes there is no lesser charge that would fit, and remember that our duty is to justice. So sometimes a plea bargain does yield justice if you can get a result that you set out to do, provide consequences for the defendant that are appropriate, by the same time alleviate the need for a victim to be re-traumatized. That is justice. In other cases, violent cases, cases where retribution is, or punishment is essential and rehabilitation is not something that is appropriate for that case. Those cases need to go to trial and need to be high priority.
Well, also playing upon the difference between what case goes to trial and plea bargain also comes how we differ as candidates for office. And what I didn't hear from Mr. Schmetzler is the team approach of what the victim wants, the discussion early on of law enforcement, and the team approach in determining how to handle cases. Charging decisions right now in the current administration are just awful. We're not properly charging cases because we're not talking to the victims and to the law enforcement early on in the cases. And quite frankly, I'm concerned that maybe support staff instead of attorneys are involved in preparing the charges and how they should be charged and written by the way I read the information that's currently going on. So basically, that's what drives the team approach and how you prosecute, when you plea bargain, when you go to trial. We as the prosecutor do have discretion as to, and it's the most powerful tool that a prosecutor has, and it's the most powerful tool that could be abused. And it's very important that there is that communication and what's called accountability to the public and how we're handling cases. And there needs to be posted so that the public is knowing how we're handling cases. So to go back, the way I determine is by the team approach of talking to the victim, getting their input, the law enforcement, the team within my office, as we work the case, as I said, horizontally through the system, that we know whether a case should be plea bargain or taken to trial. Thank you.
All right, this next question is for our clerk of the district court candidates, and Mr. Mendoza, I'll have you answer first. What other county offices are most relevant to your work as clerk?
Well, I think all of the county offices are relevant. Working with the county clerk's office is very important, working with the assessor's office, with the treasurer's office, all of these in terms of just collaborating and trying to finalize the kinds of things, the kinds of outcomes that are going to be beneficial for all of the citizens of Albany County, and to be particularly aware of that. There is, I don't think, any one office that's more important than the other. All of us would work together hand in hand to produce the kind of network that is going to be most beneficial for all the citizens of Albany County.
I think the office we probably work the most with would be the county attorney's office, simply because of the paperwork filing up and down, and then the sheriff's office. They do, you know, their fair amount of service of the paper. You know, things have to be served on the other party. Our involvement with the county clerk goes, of course, with the budget and payroll and vouchers and so forth like that. With the treasurer, they pay all our postage, so we stay friendly with them. I'm not sure, unless someone was just having a question and they'd come to the right office, how much involvement we have with the county assessor, but we have a good working relationship with everybody. And like I said, it comes in handy when a question comes upon us and we don't know the answer. I think the thing that helps most in our office, being friendly and a good relationship with all the offices, is a lot of people don't even know what we do. And so they're coming to our office to see, you know, how much they owe on their property, or how much, you know, how do I get a new title on my car? So, you know, it just helps to just know everybody, be friendly with everybody, and, you know, and we are. We just have a great working relationship, and we've all been there for so long that we're just kind of like family.
Thank you. This is a question for each of the candidates, and I'll begin again here with Mr. Schoecker and move down to our left and your right. Other than this office, how else do you work in the community?
I have been working in this community since I first moved here. I started out looking at a newspaper ad and saw that there was a group that wanted to try and get Habitat for Humanity started back in the early 90s. So Marion and I joined up. We are founding members of Habitat for Humanity. We are also very active members in our church. Annually, our church goes together with Peak Wellness and does a Christmas party dinner, which I was in charge of for 10 years, and I am still cooking for at this point for over 120 people for the mentally ill. I am a member of the Kiwanis. I am currently the president-elect. I am also co-chair for Project Warm. Project Warm is a project for coats for children. And we're going to need probably somewhere around 350 coats this year. I'm also co-chair for the Jubilee Days Pancake Breakfast. That is something that is a wonderful program. We get up very early in the morning for that one. And also, I was on the foundation board for the Epson Center and retired after being my term of president.
A lot of my time right now currently is taken up with job and things like that, but I am a current member with ASE, the Automotive Service Excellence Foundation. I'm ASE Master Certified Automotive. I'm also ASE Master Certified Medium Heavy Duty Truck Technology. So that organization takes up a lot of time. I've also written a lot of curriculum and revised a lot of curriculum for ASE standards for being taught in technical schools, high schools across the country. So that is one of the things that takes up a lot of my time right now. I also work a lot with 4-H in the community. My girls were in 4-H a long time ago. I also work a lot still with the FFA organizations, both at the high school level, doing things for them, and at the college level here in Laramie. So between those organizations, it takes up a lot of my time. Thank you.
My wife and I are both very active in our church. We are involved in those activities. We do ministries with the church, and we help out with various activities that they do there. One of our lifelong concerns has been children, and we have 7 grandchildren. They take up a lot of our time. We have a history of fostering children, and our children are adopted. So we have a very deep-seated concern for children that we have lived with for all our lives. And it does affect not only what I do in my spare time, but it also affects the work that I do in my job. I am very empathetic to foster parents in juvenile matters. I'm very empathetic to parents who have problems with their children, and I do believe it helps me a lot in my work that I have this history of working with children in the home and fostering kids.
I first moved here in 2000 from Ohio. At that time, I was pregnant with my son Tony, and I have a daughter at the time 15 months old. So I've always worked outside of the home full time. I've traveled to various communities as part of owning my firm right now, and I'm actively involved in my children's lives. My kids are involved in soccer blizzards, so I'm traveling every weekend with my children. I'm actively involved in PTA, PTO. I'm involved with all of the overnight sleepovers, just recently homecoming with the pasta bar. I'm involved in quite a bit with kids. In my law office, I average 2 to 3 cases a month of pro bono where I donate my service. I've helped out Cathedral Home with women who have been abused and terminating parental rights of fathers. I have involved in divorces, helping with guardian ad litem of children free of charge, and if you know anything about civil cases, It's very involved. I've never turned in my time to the Bar Association, where I probably could get credit for continuing education. Other than that, you know, a time I can think of prior to having children where I was actively involved in the church and with homeless.
I was born and raised in Laramie. I've been here all of my life, most of my life. I was past president of the String Range Community Action Agency Board of Directors. I was a past member of the Salvation Army Board of Directors. I'm also past president of the National Federation of Latin American Clubs. Currently, I'm the head cook at the Laramie Soup Kitchen. I'm active in my church. I'm on the parish council and I sing in the Spanish choir. I'm a board member of the Lincoln Community Center. I'm their secretary. I also am working with the committee from the university to put together a 4-year baccalaureate program for food sustainability. I do work with the Feeding Laramie Valley. We do a lot of collaborative work with Laramie Local Foods. I've been involved and connected with my community for most of my adult life.
I'm also very involved in our church, and I help out annually with the Wyoming Youth Grace Camp that they put on. I'm a past member of Seroptimus, which I'm going to get back into. I was very involved in we tried to get the club started here in town called Flyball for the dogs, which had an annual tournament out there at the ice arena. However, when your dog gets a little bit older, they don't feel like doing that kind of stuff. My big thing right now, I am the chairperson for the Community Thanksgiving Day dinner held at the Edson Center. This is my 2nd year as chair, and last year we served 400 people, and this year we're shooting for 600, and we're shooting for 30 turkeys. In the past, my dad is very involved in 4-H shooting sports, and I've gone down to some of the kids throughout the state can win a trip to Raton, New Mexico, and go down and just shoot their little hearts out. I've gone down with my mom a couple years and helped cook, and I guess that just about wraps it up.
I thought I had no time after listening to all of you. I'm a little disappointed in myself. This is another very good question for all of the candidates, and we'll start with you, Ms. Sexton, if that's all right. Every year, various schools come to the courthouse for visits. How would you explain the activities and importance of your office to the kids on one of these visits?
Well, the way I explain it to kids or anybody, we are the official record keeper for the district court, which includes so many things. Not only do we keep the case files, and we can take them back in the file room and show them all the case files, we can tell them, if somebody's getting a divorce, it's going to be filed here. If somebody's charged with a felony, all the information's going to be here. If you ever get in trouble as a juvenile, we're going to have your case file here. We also explain to them that we collect and disperse the child support money. I think many of them probably understand divorced parents and child support being paid or not being paid. They can understand that it's through our office that it comes. We can also let them know if they're fortunate enough to take an exotic vacation, they're going to have to come to our office to apply for their passport. And I don't know, just showing them around, showing them in the courtroom, explaining this is the jury box, we're responsible for filling that box, making sure the jurors show up, we're responsible for the bailiffs that are going to keep order in the courtroom. And just seeing the courtroom, I think, is pretty impressive to those kids, and just knowing that we have so much to do with it. But they're always pretty excited to come to our office. And the candy dish.
Well, I think it's very important that we recognize that our children are our future, and to help children connect in a non-threatening way to the functions of a particular government entity, going through a tour of a courtroom and going through the processing of record keeping and all that kind of thing. I think it's really, really important. We also do that to a great extent at the Laramie Soup Kitchen, and just connecting children with their future, connecting them with what's happening in their community, and helping them understand that it's not necessarily a very scary process or a place to be, but it's some place where hopefully when they get a little older, they'll want to serve in those particular capacities. So I think it's really important to connect our children with what it is that we do on a daily basis.
Well, also it depends on the age group that comes forward and how I would approach it. But I can remember and reflect back when I was in 6th grade and how I did take a tour of the courthouse, and it had a profound effect on me. That's why I became an attorney at that time. And the focus of that class was juvenile law, so it was teaching kids about how the system handles juveniles. But what was effective, and what I've done in the past when I was prosecuting, that we had shadowed. We had young children shadow and follow us and watch what we were doing. I think a lot of them were amazed when people were locked up in handcuffs and they'd walk out into the courtroom. They all wanted to get in the holding cell to see what that looked like to be in there, and to see that they have this really grotesque bathroom that they go in and the holding cell. But most of it is just, you know, being able to explain to them what we do and how we're there to protect children, how we're there to also children who get in trouble and harm other children, and just to talk to them how what actions we make, you know, in our everyday school life could end up in the court system. Thank you.
Well, when I became a lawyer, I did it to help people. So whenever I talk to children about what I do, I try to do it in terms of helping people. So what I would approach this with is to explain to the children what it is our office does in terms of helping the public remain safe, helping families reunite when they have problems, helping children learn from their mistakes and go on to be productive citizens. There is the aspect of people generally, and I think kids get it from their parents, that lawyers are scary people. Nobody likes lawyers. But when I was serving on the Board of Commissioners for the State Bar, I learned that when you ask people, do you like lawyers? They say, no. You know, they're worse than used car salesmen. But if you ask them, do you have a lawyer? Oh, yes. Well, I really like my lawyer. He or she does a great job. So I think you have to personalize for them what we do.
In the assessor's office, having a group of kids come in and learn what the assessor's office is all about also kind of depends on their age and as how you're going to approach what your particular jobs are in the office. Some of the things that might be interesting to them is to let them visit with the people that do the mapping, show them how a map is started, how they put parcels in place, and give them the ID numbers, the addresses, things like that. Today's age of computers, and I don't know a kid out there that is smarter than me with them, but that's the kind of thing that they're into. Another thing you could do with them in the assessor's office, we're the assessor's office is the keeper of the property records for the county, and explain to them there that they have all the properties listed. There's a file contained with each property and the buildings that are on the property. Show them maybe how to draw a line drawing of the property, the buildings, the dimensions and things like that, so they have an idea of what the field people are doing. Let them sit at the front desk and visit with or talk to maybe customers that come in and things like that. And there's my stop sign.
I would agree with Dana on the fact that explaining what the assessor does, there is many what I think they would consider to be fun aspects, such as the mapping and the interesting records that we do keep. But one of the key things that the assessor's office does do is generate revenue for the public services. Your firehouse, your police, the paving of the roads, all these things that these kids see on a daily basis. I don't think they realize how these things are paid for. And I think an appreciation of that these things that are going on when a fireman does go by, that they do understand that the work that the courthouse does, especially in our department, does help bring these things. In the assessor's case, 35% of the county's general budget does come out of the assessor's office. And so the assessor does help provide much service to the public as getting those funds available so that the different departments, such as the sheriff's office, the attorney's office, the clerks, the treasurers, all of them can provide a service to the public when they need it. Thank you.
Okay, this question will go to the county assessor candidates. And Mr. Brewer, I'll ask you to respond first. What types of certifications do you and your staff need to do the job this office needs to do?
What's that?
For you, Mr. Brewer. Yes, I'm sorry.
In the assessor's office, depending on the different positions or the different jobs within the assessor's office, each one of them has to have a general certification from the Department of Revenue in property taxes. Some of the department or some of the areas in there, they might specialize a little bit more, such as the mappers. They would maybe concentrate more on some of the mapping classes. The field inspectors maybe would concentrate more on appraisals, writing appraisals, different things like that. Even the mapping would come in handy to the field people. So each one of them kind of has their own things that they're going to be working on. A general certificate, you need to be set up with the Department of Revenue. That way, it takes an average of about 150 hours of class time and test work and things like that to get your certification, your permanent certification that way. I do have those certificates and everything is in place. I don't have my current certificate. I left the office just prior to those certificates being issued, but I can, in doing some research, have found that I can petition for that possibly if I'm elected, and then all I have to do is catch up on some of my other classes. But those are some of the things that need to take place in the assessor's office.
By statute and rule and regulation, the Wyoming Department of Revenue requires that anybody that does value property in the assessor's office must obtain and maintain a mass appraisal certification. That certification comes with 4 30-hour core classes and 1 2-day standards and ethics class. Once those classes are passed, they are given a 5-year time to accomplish those. And after they pass their 101 course, which is the broad stroke course like freshman courses, you get a temporary certification. And as you go through the years and pass your test, you maintain that temporary certification until the core classes and the ethics class is passed. After that, the maintaining of the course takes 28 hours every other year, And those courses do vary. Some of them are very specific to administration, some of them are very specific to land appraisal, some of them are very specific to construction. And we do try to set our people up with the most pertinent classes for their jobs. And the Wyoming Department of Revenue does make these classes available, and the only cost to the counties are the travel expenses, including the food.
Thank you. This question is for the county attorney candidates, and Mr. Schermetzler, I will ask you to respond first. What current steps are being taken concerning the trying of juveniles, and do you believe these steps are effective, and if not, what other options could be implemented?
Well, currently in our office, we have 3 options available for juveniles. As I said, there is a single point of entry. All citations issued to juveniles come to our office. We have the diversion program, which is for first offenders, when a citation comes in with a first offender, our office sends out a letter inviting the family to the diversion program. That is supervised by Big Brothers Big Sisters. It gives usually a 6-month period of time for the juvenile and his family to comply with certain basic things, much as you would if you were on juvenile probation. Go to school, obey your parents, get good grades, don't disobey the law, maybe have some counseling if that's identified through the process of the juvenile intake as being a need, maybe substance abuse classes or counseling. So that is the option. The other option is to go to juvenile court, and we do that for kids that do not make it through diversion, or kids who have serious histories of reoffending, and juvenile court is a very intense process. The other possibility is circuit court, which is really not built for kids, but for traffic offenses it's appropriate, and for kids that do not live in our community where the juvenile court cannot take the time or have the opportunity to supervise those kids who live in Cody or some other place.
As Mr. Schmetzler just explained, under the state legislature, they have adopted in 2009, I believe, a single point of entry. Could be 11, I'm not sure, 9 or 11, that they've adopted a single point of entry, which means every case, whether it came through an adult court, which is municipal court, or through circuit court, how it came in is all to be routed through the prosecutor's office. The purpose of that is in the state of Wyoming, we still try our kids as adults through the adult courts. So it was thought at that time, if we routed them through the prosecution, and they are mandated under state statute to do some sort of assessment to determine how these children should be handled. Currently, Mr. Schermetzler is the single prosecutor that handles juveniles. There is no evidence-based assessment occurring where we look at the family, regardless of the first offender, and that we're involved in these cases. I can tell you, and I'm short on time for 90 seconds to explain, but there are cases where kids, we should have intervened because you see a diversion may not be the appropriate, nor would juvenile court, and there needs to be more options and expansion. There are programs existing which we can expand right now. The program for diversion is limited to 35 kids. Last year, I think we had approximately 37 juveniles in juvenile court. 280 kids came through the system. Most of those were trafficked, but they also involved jailable offenses.
All right, this question is for the clerk of the district court candidates. And I'll have Mr. Mendoza respond first. The office seems to be well defined by statute. Can you maybe tell us what sorts of judgment calls the clerk needs to make in the office on a daily basis?
Well, I'm new to this, of course, this position. I am bilingual, Spanish, is my second language. And so I could bring that aspect to maybe court interpretation, if that would be something that was needed. Aside from that, I think that you really need to depend on the staff because they are so accomplished. They've been there for a long time. They really are the people who do the work. The people who are elected to these offices really are kind of the guiding hands, and if someone needs to be on a hook for something, I suppose it's going to be the person who was elected to that position. The staff is actually the nuts and bolts of the operation, and they're the ones who run the business and do the final production of whatever the office needs to be. I would hope that I could complement their work, and I would certainly strive to do that in terms of being a good leader, being someone who's emphasizing and recognizing potential and individual ability, and really encouraging them and myself to do our most conscientious work in that office.
I would say this actually depends on the situation and what comes up. Every day is different. Every day is a learning experience. And as far as a judgment call, I guess it would depend on who walked through the door, what their issue was, and which one of my staff could handle it the best. You know, I do have one male, and he is the kindest, most respectful person in my office. It's yes sir, no sir, and if I think that's what the situation would take, I would call upon Dwayne to do that. Also, the phone calls that come in, if someone needs to be diffused and maybe it's something that I need to do, then that would be a judgment call that I would make, transfer them to me. A lot of times people just want to tell their story. They don't, you know, they realize that our hands are tied in many situations, but it would just depend on what call came in and who came through the door and who can handle it the best, because they've all got, you know, different personalities, and, you know, Jerry may be fastest at entering in a case if someone's in a hurry, an attorney, and needs to be out the door, or if we have a family of 10 that comes in to do passports, you know, Kathy can process those the quickest. So, you know, it just depends on the situation, and like I said, every day is different, and every situation, it's a learning experience.
We're just about out of time, but there's one question in here that I just want to ask all of the candidates because I'm really interested to see how you think on your feet.
Should we stand up?
Yeah, certainly.
Save the best
You
for
could
last.
probably stand up if you would like to. It's not a zinger, I promise, but it will make you think on your feet. And I believe I will start with Mr. Scheucher, if that's all right.
Can we start on the other side?
I have to balance between the parties and the candidates, and so I'm going to start with you. What is your personal opinion about the constitutional amendment that would allow the governor to appoint 20% of the UW trustees from out of state? Personal. That is underlined here by the questioner.
No.
And if the answer is no comment, I think we would understand.
No comment. No, I think there's pros and cons to this because it does bring the potential to a broader base of eligible and qualified people to it. But also, on the other side, it does bring a con. Does the person who's going to be on there, are they truly, you know, Wyoming-oriented and what is best for Wyoming and the university? So it is a double-edged sword, and it would be one of those things that would be a very hard decision to do. And I am glad that it is one of those things that is on the ballot, and I am still I haven't decided which way I'm going to vote. And we'll decide. But like I said, there are pros and cons.
That truly is a tough one. Wyoming is kind of a unique state. Wyoming people are a little bit different. In a good way. In a good way. It takes a hardy person to live in Wyoming and know what Wyoming is all about. And again, there's pros and cons to it. It can open up a lot of opportunities for the university, but also I can see it causing some problems. So I'm going to kind of leave it at that and do some more research before Election Day.
Well, my understanding of that entire situation is that in addition to allowing the governor to appoint 2 out-of-state folks, they're going to add another person. So there'll be, instead of 12, there'll be 13. So I think that's an important thing to realize here. The other thing is, as was pointed out to me recently, we have many graduates of UW who are natives of Wyoming who leave our state and are very successful folks who have positions of CEOs of companies, have finance background, have all kinds of backgrounds. So I think it's probably a good thing, because you get people who are, and the governor's going to look at them, they're going to be people that are probably alumni that have a real connection to Wyoming, either because they lived here or went to school here or both, and they have some expertise to bring to our board. I think it's a good idea.
That's okay, I did it too. I also believe it is a good idea to expand the trustees and to reach out to UW graduates. The only concern I have right now is that the constitutional amendment does not include that specific language that they be a graduate of the University of Wyoming. And I did speak with Kermit Brown the other day, and it's my understanding that it is the intent of the legislature to pass a state statute to add or to amend the current qualifications to add that. And that would, be a very good thing to bring out graduates. I believe it's imperative that we have Wyoming graduates that are involved with the decision-making of the university. It touches my family dearly. My husband works at the university, and I also teach at the university. However, I'm very concerned recently how we didn't enforce the state statute as to what the requirements are in order to be on the board. And I would hope that there be a penalty section when they amend that needs to be enforced. It raises concerns to me, but I do believe it's overall a good idea for our communities.
Well, I also agree that it's a good idea, and I have a very good friend who has a bumper sticker on his vehicle that says, "Wyoming, it's not for everybody." And I think that that's very true. And I think Mr. Schermetzer makes a very important point, that if we have alumni from the University of Wyoming, particularly residents of the state who have left for whatever reason for employment and want to come back, then I think that's a good thing. I think that they bring an aspect of enlightenment perhaps to the board. They bring a diversity to the board that I think is really important. And so on the face of it, I would agree with it. But someone who is not from Wyoming and doesn't know a lot about our state and how we think and work and do business here, then I think it would be a bad idea. But having someone who has a connection to the state and has an investment, or has had an investment in the state, I think we want to welcome them back, and I wholeheartedly would endorse that.
I agree with everyone that there's probably going to be the pros and the cons. I'm born and raised Wyoming, born and raised Laramie. And sometimes I just feel a little protective, and I just like us in our... Well, I just don't... I'm glad we're not California or something like that. But anyway, I think Dana said it good. It takes a hardy person to live here, and we've got different values and so forth, and maybe we are behind the times, but it's a really great place to live. And I would too have to do more research, and I would just, if it does pass, I think Governor Meade also, he takes real pride in Wyoming, and he knows what we need and how to keep it wild and wild and wonderful, and a great place to raise your family and live and retire. And you know, I think he would take care of that if this would pass.
Well, I really appreciate you all indulging my wish to have you think on your feet there. Y'all did a very nice job. And that's going to conclude our formal question and answer section this evening. I'd like to thank all of the candidates for participating in the forum tonight so that our citizens could get to know you. And thank you to the audience for being here and engaging the candidates in these important discussions. And finally, let's thank the League of Women Voters for giving us all this opportunity. To invite you to visit with the candidates informally, and when you are done, please help stack the chairs. Thank you very much.
Oh, Nancy has something to say. Hang on. Just a pitch for our last two forums. There are two more. The next Thursday will be the city council candidates, all three wards, 1, 2, and 3. And the following Thursday on the 23rd, it will be the county commissioner candidates and Wyoming House candidates for districts 45 and 46. So we welcome you to return.